So we're beginning with Rachel and her paper called Smart Choices, and Rachel is from Southampton Solent University in the UK. So welcome, Rachel.
So the title, Smart Choices, Co-Evolving Towards a Paradigm Shift. Firstly, I'm going to just break down that title a bit because there's quite a lot of words, and I'd like you to understand the direction of where that title is going. So what makes a choice smart? Every day we make different decisions and different choices. And when you look at the definition of smart choices, of a choice, it's normally looking at two different possibilities. Some people would say that you're making a choice between something good and something bad. Sometimes it's a choice between a new way of working or making a change. Some people believe that most choices are sometimes led. Just got to scroll down, so just bear with me. It's between two different possibilities, and what I'm going to talk about today is two different possibilities. And the theme of this paper is technology, but it's also about how technology co-evolves. And we've seen in the presentation from the Fashion Institute of Technology of how technology and fashion has always co-evolved together, but it's also co-evolved with us and how we have co-evolved with it. So, in relation to co-evolving, is between two species, this is the definition of it, adapting to changes within each other. So adapting to things, adapting to changes. So with technology and fashion, that's kind of what's happening, okay? The two things are evolving together. So if we look at the different developments of technology, just a selection of them, because there's so many different ones. We have use, the way that we use technology, the way we've used it to communicate, and it's changed how we access information and people, and how we interact. And this is just a selection, but all these tools didn't just change what we did and how we were. They also changed how we socially interacted with each other to then change how we go about our everyday. And the interesting thing about all the different technologies is that we kind of adapted to them, okay? And that brings me back to the co-evolving of the question of this paper. This is a quote from Tony Fry, who wrote a book called Design Futuring. The future will depend upon changing what we do, what we are, and how we dwell in the world. There's a big use of the word we, because it is about how we dwell in the world, and it is about what we do. And this is taken from a book this resonates with the words of technology, because technology has done exactly that. It's changed what we do. It's changed what we are, and it's changed how we dwell. And we continue to evolve, changing, okay? But these words are actually related to sustainability, because in order to have more of a sustainable future, we have to actually change what we do and what we are and how we dwell in the world. Because technology helps us to think and act differently. And if you go one step further, and to put technology and fashion together with sustainability, you begin to see a different picture, okay? A different picture that involves a better outcome. So technology is rapidly advancing, and it has affected how we process, how we communicate, and it's affecting our system. So I'm just going to look at a few technology devices. The mobile, its original intention was to communicate. We've seen, since the mobile's been invented, how we now use the mobile to process, okay? And we do that smartly. It's become a smart device. think there was a story that I recently seen from Frog Design Agency, who talked about how someone on a plane was having a heart attack, and basically they asked if there was a doctor on the plane, and there was a doctor on the plane. He had an app that could then see that this person needed immediate attention and basically saved his life through using a mobile app. So the capabilities of how we use technology, not just to communicate, but to change our everyday, and in this case, to save lives. And a survey in North America, done by, I think, Google, found out that people use mobile phones now to make spontaneous decisions on shopping and on buying. And 19 plan what they're going to buy on their mobile, but majority of them, 81%, spontaneously consume. Okay? So we can see that it's giving us lots of different capabilities. Interactive communication. This was a Net-a-Porter window that used augmented reality so that people could shop from the window using their mobile phone to scan one of the pictures on the actual window to then go into the store, and it would be waiting for them to purchase. This opens so many different opportunities. It also opens opportunities for purchasing when a store is closed. It also opens new opportunities of the definition of what a store will be in the future. And will it be a store or will it be a board? You know, so there's lots of different ways that one thing, when combined, again, with lots of different, this was interactive, this was an experience, and it was using new technology. When you start to combine things together and they co-evolve together, you get smarter outcome, you get progress. Google goggles, quite sort of the latest thing. Not everyone's adapted them yet. I think everyone's still trying to work out how they will adapt them. And when I first seen them, I thought, I'm not sure about them. And then when I actually seen the video, after I thought, actually, I could see myself wearing those going around every day, knowing, interacting with my environment, being able to make smarter decisions. And that's what technology does. It helps us and can help us to make smarter decisions. This technology, no doubt, will change the system. And that's what technology is starting to do. It's starting to change a system and a mode that is evolving. And to evolve with it will involve changing how we dwell in the world. So the evolving concept of mobiles and technology generally, it's mobile, it's now social, and it's now virtual. We're not place-bound. We no longer have to sit at a computer. We can be walking along to make our decisions, use the internet, contact someone, take a picture of something. It's made us very interactive with our surroundings and with people. And also, we can go to different worlds because it's virtual. And as the virtual world progresses, it will become more normal to us, as with the Google goggles. So this technology is amazing with its capabilities. But what comes with this capability of technology, as much as it impacts on us, it also impacts in a negative way towards our environment. So these are just some statistics. And as you can see, the one on the left shows that within all those devices that we rely on, we use a lot of natural resources to make those things, okay? We're using up a lot of resources to the point that we will be depleting so many of them. But then if you look on the right, you can also see the positive side of technology. And this is more so when it's connected with sustainability, because what that's showing there is how you use less technology now, less power, through using a smartphone, but you've still got the issue that the wastage from phones is really high. So what I'm trying to consider and present in this paper is that if we use technology with fashion and sustainability, and you have that as your outcome, you will make for a better industry that is smarter, and not just smarter for the people, but also for the planet. So technology plus sustainability equals a smarter outcome. If some of the different technologies have made it possible to introduce new ways of working within fashion, that if technology and social media would not have existed, would not have happened. So here we can see the process by Puma. That's the whole, that's how they look at the process through a cycle. Okay, they're able to use technology to track their impact upon the world and how their products affect people and planet. Okay, just by looking in one graphic and using the different technology to track how they do that. And by doing that, they've saved 8,500 tons of paper. Okay, 1 million litres of water saved. And this was due to looking at technology and utilising it for sustainability. Communication has changed. We now create and curate. We're all decision makers. Through social media has influenced transparency, because now in an instant someone can share that information. They can tell someone over the other side of the world what's happening. Okay? We're now in a position to influence decisions through the power of social media. This is a company from Manchester, and they get their customers to vote on what design they should make. So they're not wasting making every design. They're saying, hey, customers, which one do you want? So what that's doing, it's narrowing the wastage, okay? 81% say that sharing makes them happy. We do a lot of sharing through our social networks, and sharing's not actually a new thing. Sharing's gone on for centuries, but what's different with sharing nowadays is you share in an instant. Instantly, you can share something globally, whether this is information or, as we are seeing a rise towards collaborative consumption, people are not just now sharing their knowledge, they're sharing what they own. And consumerism is changing towards being more about access and what you can access rather than what you can own. And Rachel Bosman talks about in her book how this is how she sees the 21st century. Reputation, community, shared access, collaborative consumption. It's now changed how we think and go about our system and how we actually dwell in the world. So when you put all of them together through create, co-create and consume, and you put it into the process, what comes out is a smarter way of doing, being and dwelling. Without new technologies, it would have not been possible to get there, okay? But it's a choice that we make to whether we use technology towards a sustainable outcome for people and planet, and that is a choice. And the wrong use of technology, or not a sustainable use of technology, can affect people and planet. So this is Neil Armstrong on the moon. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And it's the same with technology. We have a choice to make a difference, right, for future generations. We have a choice to make smarter decisions, and we can use the technology that we have in our hands, okay, to make those smarter decisions. We can use that to make smarter decisions within the whole fashion process, within the communication of fashion, and within the system. So, my final words are that technology has made it possible to look at the minuscule, but it's also made it possible to look at the overall picture. And with that technology, we have an opportunity to be smart and make smart choices to make this world have a better outcome. So the opportunity to make the world a better place is at our fingertips. and we choose.
Rachel was an absolute model of keeping to time, so much so that we've got the opportunity for at least a couple of questions. So any questions? Comments? Thoughts? Concerns? Would you like to use the microphone?
So I think you explored a lot of ways that technology is building to a smarter future. Did you come across in your research some specific things we should be wary about when utilizing technology within the fashion industry? Were there areas that were perhaps not smarter, or ways technology could be used that could be more dangerous?
I think I would focus on the use of consumption, because due to having to do this last minute, there was a few things in there that I missed out, like key information, probably a bit of nerves as well. But I think in relation to the thing that would worry me personally most would be consumption, because reading that statistic that people, 91% within North America, use their mobile to make spontaneous purchases, okay? So that is a rise in consumption. So that's a rise to making more stuff, okay? Whereas collaborative consumption is more going the other way. So my thing I think I would be worried about with technology is, one, that sometimes it's made so fast that actually they could use the technology to be smarter in the first place. Like, for example, I've seen a mobile phone's going to come out that's more sustainable. And to me, I don't understand why they didn't think about that when they first invented the mobile phone. You know, and it's things like that. It's like, why not use this technology to be smarter, okay? Whereas I think sometimes due to, I don't know whether it's profit or whether it's demand for goods, things get made so quick, and technology can make that quicker, and it can also make the consumption quicker. Whereas if you frame it differently and you use it towards a sustainable outcome, not only is it better for us as a planet and people, but it's also a better product that lasts longer. You know, that's my thoughts on that. Yeah.
I was just wondering about the smart decisions, because what might be a smart decision for one sector of society might be a poor decision for another sector. I'd like to kind of know what you thought about that. And also with the issue of smart mobile phones with sustainable. I think one issue for technology is that it changes so rapidly,
Yeah.
that the design, people don't want to have the last version of the technology. People want to be up to date, and you know, there's some redundancy built into technology for the very purpose that it runs out. And that, you know, there's a paradox in sustainability with technology, and I believe in fashion as well. But I think smart decision making, what's good for one person isn't necessarily, not one person, one sector, might not be good for other sectors.
I think you're right, and I think that's why I would say we choose, as in we each have a decision to make, and some people won't want to make a sustainable choice. But through, as a fashion industry, we could make things more transparent with, I think sometimes, like different research that I've done, which I didn't present here, a lot of people would rather be sustainable. Quite a majority would actually like to be more sustainable and would like goods to be longer lasting. And I think if you focus on them first, that influence might then help with the people who don't want to be sustainable. But the impact of like doing something rather than nothing is probably greater. You know, so even if you do only reach a few people, sometimes it's the same with collaborative consumption. When Rachel Bosman created that whole concept, you know, people thought she was quite mad, I think. But that has grown and is still growing now. For every, you know, a lot of people, especially Americans, actually, use the whole concept of collaborative consumption. So sometimes it's just presenting the options. And I think sometimes people aren't always presented with all the options. Whereas I think if they were like, this is green, this isn't, but they knew that, and they knew the information of actually this whole product has been tracked, and it's gone to China, it's gone here, it's gone there. Oh my gosh, that's really bad for the environment. I think they might make a different decision. So it's about presenting the information for them to make their own choice, I think.
No, I think you've got to.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking more about global companies like Apple, for example, who
Yeah.
are always bringing
Yeah.
out new products.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Apple has been, not that I mention anything about Apple, but yeah. Anyway, we'll finish that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm now happy to introduce Tamara Ellington. Sorry, Tameka. You know, it's written Tameka, but I can't actually read it. I apologize, Tameka. I got it right first time. Tameka's paper is the intriguing title of Social Networking Sites, a Means of Support for African American Women Wearing Natural Hair.
First, let me just say, excuse me if you can't hear me. I've been kind of suffering through a cold, and I thought I was going to have another day to kind of rest my voice before I started, but we'll see. Hopefully I won't do any hacking while I'm up here. But one can't really talk about African American hair without talking about the history behind African American hair. Slavery is to racism as colorism is to African American hair. Basically what that means is thinking about how colorism, an ideology of thinking that someone who is within the African American culture who is of a lighter skin color is better or is smarter or is more beautiful than, say, someone with a darker skin tone. When we think about the hierarchy of the house slave and the field slave, that all started with the procreation of biracial cultures. The master, of course, would have a relationship with one of his slaves and procreate and produce a biracial child. And within that, a biracial child began to get other privileges that people in her or his culture would not normally get. And so when you see these two pictures, both of these pictures are of African American women, but they're different. One is biracial, one is lighter skin, one has straighter hair. Which one is more beautiful? The African American culture has been suffering through this dogma of good hair versus bad hair. And what exactly does that mean? Solange Knowles just went natural a couple years ago. This is what she looked like in the picture on the left, and this is what she looks like now, the picture on the right. Which person is more beautiful? It's the same person. Her hair is different, but which one is more beautiful, right? The rationale for the research is that there are very many fake images of African American women's beauty in the media. Society's historic ideology of white beauty has enhanced the desire for African American people to wear their hair chemically straightened. African American natural hair is not fully accepted in society by the culture itself and as well as by many in mainstream society. Thus, African American women lack the knowledge that they need to be able to know how to take care of their natural hair, because the chemically straightened hair was the most acceptable in the past. The research examined the level of support that social networking sites provided for African American women with natural hair. Social networking sites communicate information for natural hair care and styling. The theoretical framework was built on the concept that perceived support and sense of community gained from involvement in social networking sites enhances individual self-esteem with positive implications for African American women's perceptions about their natural hair. As you can see from the model, perceived social connectedness and perceived social support will be positively associated with the use of online social networking. This is a theory that came about by author Goswami and a couple of his colleagues. They came up with this thinking about how individuals who use social networking sites through different types of community. I think their research was mostly about breast cancer patients and how they use social networking sites as a means of connecting with other people who have breast cancer. And so I looked at it as something that is valid for the African American community. For those women who are wearing natural hair, they need a way to be able to connect with other people just like them. So looking at the size of the network, the frequency of interaction, the kind of network, how many people are on there, those things help promote the social connectedness. Emotional support, instructional support, informational support are all things that come from social networking sites, which result in the continued use or the beginning of the use. The social networking sites would have the possibility to directly enhance self-esteem, whereas they also have a chance to indirectly enhance the exception of natural hair, or indirectly enhance the acceptance of natural hair, with the hopeful result of someone who's thinking about going natural. We call that person a transitioner. Somebody who's thinking about going natural, maybe that person will go natural, and maybe that person might actually stay natural for the rest of their lives. My research questions were, what are the levels of support, if any, does social networking sites offer college African American women with natural hair? What is the level of self-esteem of college African American women wearing their natural hair, and are social networking sites related to these self-esteem levels? What are college African American women's perceptions of their hair texture, and are social networking sites related to these perceptions? I did a series of focus groups for the research. I had a purposeful sample of 17, 3 groups. The sizes ranged from 4 individuals to 9 individuals. During the focus group session, they completed a demographic questionnaire, and the sessions lasted about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I also conducted individual interviews with a few people. I talked to someone who was a co-founder of a natural hair collegiate support group, as well as someone who is a YouTube video producer, to kind of get their feedback on how natural hair has been affected by social media. All of the data was analyzed through open coding methods, through scrutinizing transcripts, as well as looking for commonalities and differences in the data. The participants' median age was about 20 years old. Median years of wearing natural hair was about 4, a little over 4.5 years. But they actually ranged. I had someone who had just gone natural a month ago up to someone who had been natural all their lives. So it ranged how many years someone actually was natural. 67% classified themselves as African American, 24% classified themselves as multiracial. Median use of social networking site was about 5 hours. When I got a chance to look through some research myself, I went on some natural hair websites, some blogs, and other types of social networking sites that help offer support. And I found that there's a website called Natural Hair Meetup, has a listing of 164 registered natural hair groups all over the United States, and a long list of people who are waiting to actually become a part of a natural hair group. There's also a sorority that was started a few years ago. If you go on Facebook and look up Phi Napa Kappa, you can pledge to be in a sorority online. The sorority is also a support group for African American women wearing natural hair. There's also other groups such as Black men who support Black women going natural, which is a huge thing because it's very controversial in the African American community. A lot of Black men don't like African-American natural hair. They would rather have that white ideology of beauty in their African-American woman. So that's a big thing. And also, Strawberry Curls was a website that I went to. They had 3 collegiate natural hair support groups registered on their website, and one of those I actually spoke with. The Tangles group is a support group on Howard's campus for African-American people wearing natural hair. They have about 20 members. They've been in place since 2010, and they just started another group on Rutgers College campus. They host events where they bring African-American people together who have natural hair. They talk about different products that they might want to use, and they also bring celebrities and experts who are in the natural hair movement to come and talk about natural hair. Like I said before, there's about 5 hours or so that the participants talked about the use of using social networking sites for natural hair. Transitioning naturals spent about 8 to 10 hours on social networking sites. So they actually spent more time on there than someone who was already natural. A transitioner is a person who is thinking about going natural. They're doing different processes by maybe eliminating the chemical relaxer. Maybe they're wearing their hair in different braided styles to try to transition from a chemical hairstyle into a natural hair texture. Favorite sites that the participants talked about was Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Social networking sites, expectations, the participants stated that they met all of the expectations. One participant stated that if it were not for social networking sites, I would not have had a support because I don't have any friends who are natural. The person that I spoke to on YouTube, I'm just going to quickly try to go through. I just got the sign that I have about 5 more minutes here. The person that I spoke to on YouTube, who was a YouTube producer, she had been making videos for about 4 years or so. She said that she started doing the videos because she wanted to offer support. She also wanted to be able to have a chronicle journal of her natural hair journey, and that's one of the reasons why she did it. As you can see, in regards to the emotional support that social networking sites offer, you can see a raise from when the individual first started wanting to go natural, and then when they started looking on the social networking sites, they had a raise in their level of self-esteem regarding their hair texture. Social networking sites was shown to boost self-esteem levels regarding natural hair. One participant said, "My mother was like, 'Why are you walking around like that? You used to always do your hair really pretty or really cute. I don't know what you're doing now.'" So family a lot of times was not showing great support for individuals wanting to wear their hair natural, so they had to go elsewhere to find support. In regards to informational support, YouTube was a major influencer. One participant said, on YouTube there are so many different tutorials on products to use in styling. One person's page takes you to another person's page and then takes you to another person's page. Another person said, the things that you can learn about your hair are limitless on social networking sites. Some of the instrumental support came not from social networking sites per se, however, came from the actual meetup groups. Tangle's support group offered products that people who wear natural hair could use, as well as support within that community. There's talk about hair texture acceptance amongst the women. And there was a numbering system that was developed by Oprah's personal stylist. He came up with the numbering system that numbered hair textures from 1 to 4. And as you can see on the illustration, 4 being the curliest, coiliest, kinkiest hair. And we talked about good and bad hair and why the classifications of the numbers and what did that mean to them. And some people said, well, it's a good thing because it helps us understand which products to use on our hair. But then others said, why put us in another classification or category, and why enforce another hierarchy? Good hair versus bad hair. The individuals that I talked to said, good hair is not straight hair, good hair is healthy hair. "82% of the participants felt that social networking sites talked positively about hair texture. 70% of the participants felt positively about their hair texture. 94% of the participants planned to stay natural. However, social networking sites did not have a influence on that. It influenced the motivation, but not the ideology of staying natural. That came from going through a holistic change in their life. The participants talked about, now that I'm natural, I changed the way that I feed myself, I changed the things that I do in my life, I take much better care of myself. And for implications, further study could definitely look at person-to-person support groups, such as the Tangles group, to obtain a richer, deeper view of how support groups actually impact women who wear natural hair. Further study of women who documented their natural hair journey would also be interesting to look at, how people start from the beginning to the end and what their perceptions of their natural hair is at that point. It would also be important to continue to evaluate the effects of intercultural discrimination regarding natural hair, because there is a huge controversy. It's very sensitive when you talk to an African-American woman who straightens their hair and you talk to an African-American woman who wears her hair natural. There's almost a clash between the two individuals just because someone decides to wear their hair in a certain way, and that definitely needs to be looked into more. So, thank you. Yes.
I also thank Tameka for being incredibly efficient with time. Are there any questions for Tameka?
Have you looked at into doing any further studies outside of the African American community? Because just listening to you, I grew up in Ireland and I have insanely curly hair. And I'm relating to everything that you're sharing, but I'm obviously not in that demographic. And so for me, I had no history in my culture and in my world of even what to do with it. Yeah. So I grew up with an incredibly, with a similar but a different stigma from my perspective. So I think that there's more people like me, I'm sure, out there that have experienced similar challenges in a different way. Yeah,
I haven't gone outside of the culture yet. And the reason why I haven't is because there's so many things to unearth within that. There's so many. I remember the first time that I presented on natural hair was back in 2004. I went to a conference which was a all African-American conference. It was all about social behavioral and that kind of thing. And so I was talking to the individuals about natural hair, and I had this African-American woman almost like verbally attack me because she was so upset that I was saying, you know, that African-American people who wear natural hair tend to have a higher level of self-esteem about themselves, because, you know, you need to have a higher level of self-esteem. If this hair texture is not fully accepted among society, you need to be able to have that strength to be able to wear natural hair. So yeah, there's a lot to unearth. So
it's just so fascinating hearing you talk about it, because I struggle with the same issues.
Yeah.
Straight versus curly.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same challenge.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What's it gonna? Oh, you. Sorry, I had a question. But
Hi, I think I have more of a comment instead of a question.
Yes.
I guess the comment would be, oh God, I can't even say it. Being a black woman myself and just chopping all my hair off was so traumatic for me. I mean, I said I'm gonna learn how to love myself, but oh my God, there were so many things thrusted upon me. So I guess I'm wondering how, as a question, how far do you want to go with your research, and exactly how far will you let the research take you?
You know, I really don't know. I'm going to keep going until I just run out of things to talk about. Or I'm just going to keep going until the issue is no longer an issue. Because, you know, a lot of people, they talked about the fact that going natural was a way of self-acceptance. I finally said, I'm going to accept myself the way that I am. I'm not going to try to, live up to these, ideologies that mainstream society wants me to live up to. I'm going to just be who I am. And I did another study on natural hair with an older population of people, and they were saying it was time for me to be free. I wanted to be free. I did not want to live under these constraints any longer. African American women don't know how to swim because of the processed hair that they have. African American women don't exercise because of the processed hair. Natural hair has allowed women to learn how to swim, allowed women to become more physically active. So, I'm going to keep talking about it and keep researching about it until it's no longer an issue.
Well, I've never cared. The education system was something. The only picture I have of me as a teenager is a picture of me and Bruce Springsteen taken in 1978.
Okay.
And there I am wrapped around Bruce, and Bruce is wrapped around me, and I had this wonderful, kinky hair, and everyone's like, and it was great. But, one person's garbage is another person's treasure. It just so happens that the person that invented the straightening comb was also the first self-made millionaire
That's right.
in this country.
That's right. That's right.
And she was an African American
That's
woman.
right. That's
she
right.
was also the first real estate mogul because she walked from here to California, and every time she couldn't stay somewhere, her bodyguard said, "Hey, David, come in. You see this money? Take this money, give me a PhD."
Right.
And she became like the first real estate mogul, which is something to be proud of as well.
Yeah.
So, I wondered, my question actually was, how many people on this site know who she is?
Oh, I'm sure a lot of them do. A lot of them do know who she is, but you have to.
I just wonder.
You have to look at it.
I just wonder because it's two things. Just like her, when she did the social, the phone, it just so happens that the original invention of the GPS and Wi-Fi was a bomb invented by a woman, Hedy Lamarr, to blow up the Japanese. So it's interesting. I think what people really need to do is stand up. I've lost a lot of jobs. They still call security. Even here in this building after 30 years, if you're not dressed up right, it's just the way it is. And if you won't stand for anything, you fall for it. I paid a lot to walk the way I do, and I wouldn't walk any other way for nobody. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tameka. And I should have said you're from Kent State University. Glad your voice held out as well.
Hi. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Is that? Okay. So I'm an alumni of the University of Leeds, and my paper is on fashion images and objects, how online influencers are changing our experience. So our experience of fashion has always been defined by our material and immaterial experiences with the objects of fashion. But over the last decade, the digital realm has dramatically altered the speed and intensity with which we interact with immaterial fashion objects, and negatively affected our experience of material fashion objects through processes of production, collection, and curation. So for this paper, I conducted a small number of surveys, about 20 of each, of fashion bloggers and fashion blog readers, so their data is going to appear throughout the presentation. I also use a number of terms, material fashion objects, which is physical, transient commodities of the fashion industry, like apparel or retail stores, and immaterial fashion objects. So these are representations of the material fashion objects with limited physical presence, such as video, sound, and predominantly for this paper, images. Commodity theory is also an essential component of this discussion, and the difficulty of identifying the path, origin, and labour behind commodities and the effects of the illusion of social forces occurring between commodities. So fashion is now global. It engages with the material and unreal digital spaces of the internet. So the emergence of digital processes has exacerbated the effects of commodity theory, especially for those inhabiting both digital and real fashion landscapes. But who are these consumers and who are they not? So consumers and influencers tuned into the digital sphere is a broad, diverse set of individuals. Their common bond is the regularity with which they use the digital realm for fashion purposes. So on to production, collection, and curation. If I can... Okay. So this is just a little video that I'm going to play. If it opens up. Oh. Sorry. So the history of producing, collecting, curating, and essentially consuming immaterial fashion objects, specifically images, is not new. It's an established method of research, and the fashion industry has long relied on it as images as communication. But what is new is the development of technology enabling these processes to occur more rapidly and across a more diverse set of parameters. So in image production, smaller, lighter cameras and image capture technology integrated into mobile devices has made the ability to take quick, higher quality photographs easier than ever before. High production values are available through apps like Instagram and the creation of video content through YouTube, or, an example here, the newest Twitter-owned app, Vine, which creates 6 seconds of video. Significantly, these technologies are also social. Producing fashion images has become easier, and sharing it with your social following easier still. Networks have been built around the richness of user-created imageries, such as Flickr. And what we understand as a fashion image has diversified as well. Outfit shots taken by an independent blogger, 360-degree live stream catwalk shows, augmented reality memes and GIFs, all of these can be identified as immaterial fashion objects. Networks, too, have been created through new technology that are a response to and extension of the consumer's continuing interest in collecting and curating fashion images. For example, Pinterest, which hit the 3 million user mark in 2012, relies on the network community's ability to produce images in order for individuals to collect and curate them. And individual sites such as social media and blogs allow for all 3 processes of production, collection, and curation to occur simultaneously. Collection and curation has intensified from cut-and-paste scrapbook processes to rapid, deeply individual and analytical processes of immaterial fashion object selection. For example, 80% of the bloggers that I had interviewed had purchased material fashion objects through seeing it featured in another blogger's post. There's a significantly social element to these images. All of these processes are rewarding too, not only in the community-generated richness of the platforms, but in concrete forms like and share competitions on Facebook. For influencers, using a wide range of platforms provides greater exposure and community engagement. So, for example, 60% of the blogs I surveyed used all of these platforms primarily for fashion purposes, with only 30% of readers using them for fashion purposes. One important thing I want to identify is the use of images and language. So one huge shift is this relation. In the fashion system, Bart's analysed the relations between language, image, and object. For contemporary analysts, immaterial fashion objects are lacking this first contextualising force. In collection and curation, the vast reach and rapidity of the digital realm means that any existing contextualising language can be lost very quickly. And in these examples here, you can see that on Pinterest, only a single character, not even a letter necessarily, is required to caption the image and allow it to be shared. There is little impetus for individuals to use language to contextualise a fashion image for anything other than referencing its origin. Hyperlinks allow this by sitting behind the image, but without any contextual language, there's little analysis, even the description, for example, ice cream and bangles. It's not really adding anything to the image for us. So there's a reliance on that image to explicitly state all there is to comprehend about the objects represented within it, and implying the use of contextualising language as defunct. So all of these things together, the negative effects on our experience of fashion. Firstly, has that gone? Firstly, experiencing a material object in the flesh, that's clothing, a catwalk show, a model, a historical accessory, opens a window onto the industry. And aspects of that industry that, I'll just speak louder, that commodity theory has almost successfully eradicated from our knowledge. Construction, quality, cut and finish can all be examined and analysed in a material fashion object. Analysing these technical material aspects can equip the consumer with knowledge. But in the fashion image, the object appears quite literally flat and textureless. The experience of a material object opens up the examination of fashion as a cultural form and its relationships with gender, politics, power, and economics. There's no reason why the fashion image cannot do so either, but the material object allows us to embrace its affective power in making us feel something that can then be turned into analysis. Most importantly, experiencing the material object opens up a rupture in the effects of commodity theory through introducing knowledge. When we examine the delicacy of a sequined dress and read the label hand embellished, we can ask, whose hands? To understand labour across a range of material fashion objects, the garment, the retail space, the photography studio, opens up possibilities for collective discussion and identification. To explore Deborah Leslie's idea that oppression does not just exist at the point of material production. So a second negative effect is the intensified desire for the new. Sorry. Consumption means that new immaterial fashion objects are rapidly discarded for the next new fashion object. Apprehending the image does, as Bart said, to some extent replace the need for purchasing the material object. However, it doesn't replace the desire for something new, immaterial or material. In the digital sphere, there are no constraints of time, ensuring there is 24-hour production, collection, and curation of fashion images. The corpus continually expands, consumers apprehend further images, and fatigue sets in. Fashion images must not only be new, but they must be unique. 80% of the bloggers said that I interviewed, they attempted to always photograph different outfits each time they blogged, essentially creating a new fashion image for consumption every single, potentially day or every single week. And finally, this is a very important one, fashion images cannot be produced without material fashion objects. The production of material fashion objects over the last 20 years has increased in speed dramatically. Symbiotically, the production of immaterial fashion objects has increased. A material fashion object has to be represented in the immaterial. There needs to be a greater material production in the fashion industry in order to satisfy the production of immaterial fashion objects and images, which then partly states the desire for the new. So nearly 60% of blog readers and 70% of bloggers believed that fashion blogging did encourage people to buy more clothes, demonstrating increased material consumption, and 25% of bloggers said they purchased a new material garment specifically with creating a fashion image for their blog in mind. So, all sounds a bit negative, but there are some positive effects. So, first one is expand and diversify. What constitutes a fashion image has changed, and it's opened up new ways of looking at fashion. Tastemakers and influencers are still highly regarded, but individuals now have more opportunities than ever to display their unique reworking of fashion concepts, disseminating them to a cross-territory population and ensuring the reach of more diverse concepts of fashion. The example here is from a site called uglysweaters.com. But you can buy these ugly sweaters as well. Material objects represented by the fashion image are also more diverse, as seen here. Street style, thrift store, and DIY apparel are all now part of the corpus, collected and curated alongside designer labels and historical objects. The people of fashion have also diversified, although in my belief this is one area in which there is the greatest work to be done to expand the existing culturally defined and narrow perception of beauty, sexuality, etc. There's also an idea of the infinite immaterial for the finite material. So while the fashion image will never escape the requirement of a material object, it is a form that allows a distribution and exploration of fashion without the deep levels of environmental and labour exploitation that occur with material production. A fashion image can be collected and curated or reconsumed an indefinite number of times without requiring further material commodities to be expended on its production. However, while this is more ethically sound, we must still keep in mind the work of those who produce immaterial fashion objects and conceive that work as labour. So what further action can be taken? First of all, reintegrating language. Bart says that what language adds to the image is knowledge. In its simplest form, language can describe the back of a garment when all we can see is the front. Fashion images lacking language information are more unknown than those attached to text, which provides context, commentary, and discussion. An image may shock, disturb, or provoke, but it is the language associated with that image that turns emotion into debate and a single glance into an interrogative gaze. Rather than language serving to disappoint the image, as Barthes argues, language can elaborate on the immaterial fashion object, developing flat apprehension into rounded comprehension. There's also an attempt to actively diversify the fashion industry through consumer processes of production, collection, and curation of fashion images. Consumers have the opportunity to increase the richness of the corpus and actually shape the future of the industry. Processes of digital consumption do not have to be passive. They can be active, encourage analysis, and create a more vibrant, culturally diverse industry. And finally, although difficult, there is an opportunity to disrupt the effects of digital processes involving fashion images on the production of material fashion objects. Although consumers have come to accept and ignore the detrimental environmental and human effects of fast fashion, rifts in the effect of commodity theory can and do open up. It is in the hands of the consumer to help reaffirm experience and comprehension over distance and apprehension. Analysing and interrogating fashion images and reintroducing experience as essential to individual, collective and industrial fashion can help to interrupt some of the effects of commodity theory, instead experiencing material and immaterial fashion objects as commodities created by human labour. There we go.
These speakers are so cool with their timing. We have time for a couple of questions. Oops, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Or not.
I thought there was interesting resonances, of course, with the first paper. I don't know whether anyone would like to, or whether maybe even you'd like to comment on that.
With Rachel's?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were discussing it before, and the kind of idea of, I guess it's how people perceive technology as, it feels like people are either on one side of the fence or the other. So they either think it's amazingly positive and incredible and, well, or really, really negative and it's going to change everything and we're all screwed. But I think that actually it's kind of this idea of what can be taken from it and what's positive and what is sustainable, even in just the consumption of images, what is sustainable, and this idea that I can share. I think there was one of the statistics I read was an H&M dress had been shared 1,500 times on Pinterest. No one had bought that dress. So it's kind of that idea of that there's a huge disparity between what you consume and what you consume on those two different platforms, the real and the unreal of the digital, and I think that's a huge, need more research time.
It also comes back to that point about access. Because you can access so many images, can't you? Right? So you can access information. So with the sort of new consumers, so to speak, they're moving more towards it rather than ownership. Rather than ownership, it's more about the access to what they could, basically what they can access rather than what they can actually physically own. So you could pin quite a few dresses, I know I have on Pinterest. I'm not going to buy them, they're just there sort of waiting for inspiration. Yeah. You know, so it's changing the way we are viewing and consuming images and fashion itself.
On the point of access, something that I couldn't include because I didn't have time is this idea of people believe the internet to be democratic and global, and it's not. There are digital densities within who has access to the internet. So remembering that when you look at how fashion images are shaped online is very, very important, because it does then sort of, in very much in the same way as publishing houses and print houses, they're situated in certain cities, in certain continents. The digital landscape has a very, there's kind of a parallel with that, something I can include. I think this lady has a question.
One question.
Could you use the mic?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I noticed in your presentation on your chart with the different social media, the different types of social media people are using, a trend that I've also seen of going from more to less, going to more simplistic forms. People are moving away towards blogs and to Twitter. They're moving away towards Facebook and to Instagram, where we don't even need to put captions. And even Pinterest is saying we all need a character to promote something. Why is that? Did you have any idea in your research? Why are we going to less and less? Is that dealing with consumerism? Is that how we consume?
The first one I would say is that it's quicker. One of the bloggers said that Instagram was her daily update and Facebook and her blog were her weekly updates. And it is very much that speed at which you can do it. I can take an iPhone, take a picture, get on Instagram, done. The girl who did the Vine video of the Barney's windows, that was up straight away. I've already accessed a part of New York Fashion Week. I haven't been to it. I'm not going to any of the shows. But I think it is the rapidity. I think although people are moving from more complex platforms to simpler ones. One, you have to be able to use those. If you can't use those, then it doesn't matter how complex it is, you're not going to use it. And two, they're using more of them. So as you can see here, bloggers and readers are using several platforms that take up quite a lot of time. Some of those are very simple. Pinterest is very, very simple. However, something like, I would say Polyvore, it's a lot more complex, but people are still using it across the board. So as these new ones are developing, people want it to be simpler, but they want more of them as well. I think the reason for that could just be people love new things. People love the excitement of sharing, that idea of sharing and getting things out there. But no, that's a really interesting why that move. I'd like to see it in the future with the sort of this year. There's new apps coming out with how people take those up. But yeah.
Thanks so much.
No worries.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we need to move on, but there'll be time for informal chat afterwards. Yeah. So thanks again for a great paper and a very efficient paper.